10 in grade 12 economics. So far we have completed 5 different chapters, children. So we have spoken about the introduction of macroeconomics, we have spoken about national income accounting, then we have discussed about the money and banking as one chapter, then we spoke about the distribution of income and determination of income and employment, and then fifth chapter we spoke about the government budget and the economy. That is, we have discussed about the national income accounting. In that particular chapter we have spoken about how do we calculate the GDP, how do we calculate the national income. So we have discussed about the product value method, we have discussed about the income method and the expenditure method. Chapter 3 we spoke about money and banking, where we discussed that money is a medium of transaction. Okay, it's a widely used common medium used for transaction, because barter system had some disadvantages where it led towards the emergence of usage of money and how it is, the demand for money is created, the supply of money is created. So usually we need money for what motives? People, individuals, we need money for transaction motive and speculative motive. And then how supply of money is created, we saw. Then through banking, it is actually created through banking, right? So we spoke about the central bank and the commercial banks as well. So the central bank is the apex bank, it is the banks of like head of the banks, bankers bank, government's bank we call it. So there were various different things. We spoke about the Central Bank of India, which is the Reserve Bank of India. For every country there is a central bank and it is different. For our country it is this Reserve Bank of India. It is responsible for issuing money, it is responsible for foreign exchanges, this is the custodian of foreign exchanges, so it is called the lender of the last resort, and so many different things we discussed about the Reserve Bank of India. Moving on, we spoke about how money is created, like we saw it in a brief term, like what is CRR, what is SLR, right, open market operations. Then we spoke about the repo rate, purchase repo rate and all those things. Right, children. And then we moved on to determination of income and employment. In that we have discussed about a two-sector model. What is a two-sector model? Only households and firms were in that model. So we had the production, okay, the factors of production, and in return they were paid with the wages or salaries for the factors of production. And then we had the products and the payment for these products, goods and services. We did not talk about government much. So we spoke about how consumption and investment differs and how it determines the equilibrium income. So what happens if the price is the same and demand changes? What happens when there is a change in the price? What happens when there is a change in the income? All those things we have discussed in chapter 4, determination of income and employment. And then we moved on to talk about government budget. So what did we talk about in government budget, children? So we learned through that chapter that yes, of course, there are times we have some fluctuations in the economy where the government has to intervene and settle down, make it proper in that particular situation is what we have discussed in the government budget. We know that after the new industrial policy of 1991, we had new economic reforms like liberalization, privatization and globalization. Under this privatization, what happened? Most of the sectors, most of the industries that were in the hands of the public sector were dissolved, like disinvestment was introduced and they were changed into private sectors. Only major 4 industries were in the control of public sector and remaining are in the hands of private sector. So what kind of economy do we have, children? We have an economy called mixed economy, where we have the involvement of both the private sector as well as the public sector. So the government has to intervene when there is a fluctuation and they have to sort it out. So we spoke about what is a budget. It is a financial statement of a particular financial year. We have 2 different accounts, namely the revenue account given as revenue budget, the capital account given as capital budget. Right, children? What is revenue budget? Throughout that particular year, whatever receipts and expenditures that have happened and which has an impact only in that financial year would be taken up into revenue budget. Right children? So என்ன expense பண்ணிருந்தாலும் என்ன receipts இருந்தாலும் என்ன income earn பண்ணிருந்தாலும் whichever that is related to what அந்த particular year உண்டான ஒரு change மட்டும்தான் அதால கொடுக்க முடியுங்கிறப்ப those were called as revenue budget. But what was capital budget? When we had those expenses and receipts given impact in the subsequent years and they were given up into the capital budget. So we spoke about the objectives of government budget and we spoke about the various functions of government budget like allocation function, redistribution function and stabilization function. And later on we moved on to discuss about what? We discussed about the classification of receipts and expenditures. So what are revenue receipts, what are revenue expenditures, capital receipts and capital expenditures. And then we spoke about fiscal policy. So we discussed about how government expenditure changes the equilibrium income and employment. Earlier we have discussed in the previous chapter that only the firms and the household sector had an impact. So in this chapter, in this 5th chapter, we have introduced the concept of government spending and taxes. So why did we talk about government spending and taxes first of all? Because we wanted to have a balanced budget and most of the time it leads to a deficit budget. So how do you manage this deficit, tackle this deficit? Through taxation. Okay, by taxing people we have the surplus budget. We aim for surplus budget but it happens to be a balanced budget or most of the time it happens with a deficit budget. So deficit we have 3 kinds. We have the revenue deficit, we have the fiscal deficit and we have the primary deficit. So how these government spending can be managed with the taxation? So government spending when it increases, that is an expenditure. So it can be managed with the revenue called what? Tax. So we came to a conclusion that instead of having indirect taxes, a change in the indirect taxes, we can have a change in the direct tax. Okay, because indirect taxes would affect a larger sector of the economy. It actually affects everybody in the country, whereas direct tax is levied on the income that we receive, that I earn. So if I am earning more than the limit that is given by the government, then I am liable to pay the tax. But if someone who is not earning to that level is not going to pay that much of amount. Right children, so this was what we have discussed in the previous chapters. Now what are we going to do? We are going to do the last chapter in the macroeconomics part A. Okay, we are going to finish your economics part A, that is macroeconomics is going to be finished with this particular chapter and then we are going to move on to the Indian economic development. So we are going to talk about the open economy, macroeconomics. Open economy, why? Because all these 5 chapters we have spoken only about our country, right? So national income accounting was about our country's income, our country's GDP. So we discussed about the sectors only within us. Yes, of course, we spoke about NNP, net national income, where net national income, where we took into account about the factor income earned by Indians in abroad and factor income earned by foreigners in India. This we took into account, but a very, very small part. We did not discuss much about how it influences the government budget, how it deals with the banking. We just said, yes, we deal with the foreign exchange, but still how does it work is what we are going to discuss in this particular chapter. That is, we are going to have an open economy where the countries, okay, there is a transaction between countries. So an open economy is one which interacts with other countries through various channels. So how is an open economy? or how transaction is performed, because all these chapters we were talking only about a closed economy, that is only about our country India. But now we are going to talk about open economy, macroeconomics, where we are going to have some linkages that would lead us with a transaction in another country. So what are these linkages? How are we going to, what are those various channels through which we interact with other countries is what we are going to discuss. So there are basically three ways, okay? There are basically three ways in which these linkages are established. That is, in which way we interact with other countries. We have output market, financial market and labor market. So how many linkages do we have, children? We have three linkages, and they are the output market. What is this output market, you think? The transaction of goods and services between one country and another country. So here we have to talk about imports and exports. So what are we talking about here? Imports and exports of what? Goods and services. When I say products, means what? It means goods and services. At times we need to some kind of services are offered to other countries also, and we get to have the services of other countries. So a transfer of these with other countries, a transaction, a trade between two countries where it involves the goods and services, then it is called as what? An output market. So what happens here? Here we the consumers get a choice of domestic products and foreign goods. So we get to know about the duty paid shops, right? So when you want to buy a foreign chocolate or something like that, you just go to a duty paid shop. So as the name says, duty paid shops. What duty? The import duty or the excise duty, customs duty, whatever it is, you just import and they pay the duty for that. That's why it's called as what shop? Duty paid shops. Alright, children. So we have the output market where two countries or many countries they trade goods and services. So here we have a choice of the foreign goods and the domestic products. So this is not only for the consumers but as well for the producers. So when they want to buy a machinery, so they can go for machinery that is made, that is constructed in India, or they can go for a machinery that is made in foreign. So we see that many of the companies they go for machineries that are foreign made, right? So not only the consumers but the producers also have a choice of domestic products and foreign goods when they want to talk about some machinery or some raw materials, right, children? Then we have the financial market. What is this? So first one was the output market, second one is the financial market. So when we buy financial assets from other countries, so this gives investors the opportunity to choose between domestic and foreign assets. So when you buy shares, okay, when you want to be a dealer, for example, when you want to be a dealer for a particular company, it can be a domestic product or a foreign good. Right, we have foreign cars sold in India. We have some Indian products also sold in foreign. Right, isn't it? So at that time, so when you want to be a dealer, that's even a financial asset. Right, children, buying shares, because if you want to be a dealer, you need to pay a certain amount. You need to be a partner or a shareholder, something like that. So those financial market is like when you buy financial assets from other countries. So what do you buy here? What do you trade here? You trade financial assets. What do we trade here? We trade financial assets. Finally, we have labor market. So as the name says, it is like a firm has a choice to choose the place of their work, okay, to locate production, and workers to choose where to work. So this is an option like for choosing your workers, from where you want to recruit them and which company a labor wants to work with. Okay, so here even there are some immigration laws, like someone who is a resident of India wants to go to another country to work. Alright, so there are certain rules and regulations like how they have to go, what they have to submit, what documents they have to submit, how long they have to work permits, all those things are in that particular rule. Okay, so labor market is when the producers, they decide their place of production and people decide where they want to work. Okay, so people going from our country to another country to work, or people from other country coming here to work, it's about labor market. Right, children? Here, movement of goods traditionally has been seen as a substitute for the movement of labor. So when you want to buy foreign goods, okay, they can be brought down here instead of you going and working there and need it. So what it is, it's like a substitute. Movement of goods is termed as a substitute for movement of labor. Instead of these people going and working there, the company can come here and their products can be produced here. The production can be done here is what we are trying to say. So we are going to talk about the first two linkages, because labor market is a very strange term and it's a very deep thing that we need to talk about a lot of laws and rules, regulations. So we are going to stick with output market and financial market. We are going to talk about how there is a change, or how does it affect or influence us is what we are going to discuss. So we focus on the first two linkages, which is the output market and the financial market. What are we going to talk about? So when Indians buy foreign goods, this spending escapes as a leakage. So before going on to foreign trade, what it is actually, an open economy is said to be one that trades with other nations in goods and services, and most often also in financial assets. So what is open economy in short is when a country trades with other countries, some goods and services or even financial assets are traded between two or more countries, and that is termed to be what? That is termed to be an open economy. So India, for example, is of course an open economy because we consume products from other countries and we also export. Our producers, they export goods to another country where it is consumed. So our country is an open economy. So what is foreign trade? Next we are going to talk about foreign trade. What is foreign trade? So we said that when we trade goods and services or financial assets of another country, then it is termed as what? Foreign trade. How does it affect the aggregate demand? So far we were speaking about the aggregate demand because we saw that aggregate demand is equal to the consumption expenditure plus the investment expenditure plus the government expenditure. Right, children? And what? Plus X minus M. Do you remember? Exports minus imports we saw. So there even we have this kind of influence playing up there. So what are we going to do? We are going, even the GDP plays a role. So how these are going to affect the aggregate demand? The consumption is more or investment is more. How is it going to affect? We saw how government spending affects. We saw how taxes affect. So how does these affect the aggregate demand? Because aggregate demand is equal to your output. Whatever is your demand, you should produce to that level. And if the production is more, the factors of income are paid more. The equilibrium income increases. So based on that only we have the equilibrium income and employment. So what are we going to discuss? So the aggregate demand is affected in two ways. Okay, one is called the leakage. Another one is called the injection. So, two ways the aggregate demand is getting affected due to the foreign trade, and what are they called as? It is called as leakage and injection. So, what is leakage basically? Leakage is when we prefer foreign goods instead of buying our domestic goods. That is, we go for more of imports, then there is a reduction or there is a decrease in the aggregate demand. For example, we have the domestic product, the same product. Let's have chocolate. Let's have chocolate. So usual aggregate demand of chocolate is 200. Okay, this is a domestic good. Same chocolate, there is a foreign good. Okay, and people have consumed some 15 units of it, which will deduct. This is called the leakage. Okay, we go for foreign goods. So the aggregate demand falls. What has happened to the aggregate demand, children? It has fallen. So what happens? This is called a leakage. This, when we go for imports, when we go for buying foreign goods as consumers, that is termed as leakage because it reduces the aggregate demand. What happens here? The aggregate demand reduces. But what is injection? When we export our goods and there is a good market for us in the foreign, then our aggregate demand moves up. For example, take for example ghee. Okay, in India we have an aggregate demand of 300 units. Okay, and what happens? We are exporting, and there even we have a good demand for more of 100 units. Okay, for an export. So your aggregate demand increases. Right, children? What has happened here? Through leakages, that is imports, your aggregate demand has fallen down. Whereas when you had this injection, that is, you are exporting your goods and they are sold in other countries, the aggregate demand increases. So due to foreign trade, we have two impacts on the aggregate demand, children. One is the increase and another one is decrease. When does it increase and when does it decrease? So when we opt for foreign goods rather than domestic goods, the aggregate demand falls, it comes down, it decreases, and it is termed as leakage. Whereas when you have injection, that is when you, injection means what? Intaking, right? So increasing, right? So exports, that value is getting added up, right? Getting in. That's why it's called injection. Okay? So it enters, the demand of foreigners also enters, adds up with the aggregate demand, so it increases, and it is termed as what? Injection. So what is the impact of foreign trade in the aggregate demand? We have two impacts, the leakage and the injection. Leakage happens when consumers, Indian consumers, we go for products that are imported, then it is the aggregate demand falls for a certain product. But when the goods are exported and foreigners are good with the product, they are happy with the product, they want to buy more of it, then the aggregate demand for the particular product increased. Okay, the production is in India, so the domestic economy increases. Okay, so what is one more thing that we need to discuss is we have to actually connect all the chapters here, children. Whatever chapter we have discussed so far, we have to discuss all those chapters in the point of open economy, because we have spoken everything from the point of a closed economy where it was done only inside India. The aggregate demand, the output, employment, income, everything was related to only our country. That is, it was discussing only about a closed economy. Now we are talking about an open economy. So talking about the transactions, we spoke about the transactions, we spoke about trade. So what is the medium for it? Money. Of course, we have discussed that. Money is a common medium of transaction. So what are we going to do? When we exchange goods and services between two countries, we use money. Of course, we cannot go for barter system, because within our country even we use money instead of barter system. So within different countries, when you go for option of money, how do you do it? Because different countries have different values, right? So this country's money should be equal to that country's money, because if we are importing something, okay, not import, export, we are exporting something to Australia, means they use Australian dollar and we use rupee. How would be matched is what we are going to discuss now, because at international level there is not even a single currency that is taken up commonly in common terms, that is, it is acceptable by every country, you can't say. Isn't it, children? So when you have rupee, it is used only in our country. You can't take the same rupee and use it in another country for any purpose. Right, children? Same way, when you have American dollars or Australian dollars, you cannot use them for transactions here. You can have it like a saving, you can have it like a collection, okay? You can, frame it even and have. But are you going to use it to buy things? No, you can't. So, how are we going to manage it? Excuse me. Is what we are going to discuss now. Okay? So, as I said, we have spoken about GDP. We have spoken about aggregate demand in an open economy. Now, we are going to discuss about what? We are going to discuss about how money plays a role in this open economy is what we are going to discuss. So as I said, there is money when you take, it is a medium of transaction, of course. Right? But is there a common currency? No common currency is there for us to use. So how are we going to use? How are we going to change it is what we are going to have. So what happens here is the currency will maintain a stable purchasing power. That is, in other countries they get that only if they know about the particular currency. Any country, we need money to have purchasing power. We cannot use anything else, because that is what? It is a medium of, it is a common medium of transaction. So in the past we had like exchanges, the place where you can go and exchange your currency of one country to another currency with a particular rate, with a particular equalization. So when we have, when you watch the news, you will have a foreign exchange column where they say like 1 rupee is equal to these many dollars, 1 rupee is equal to these many euros. So usually we have these only. In the news we get to know about the American dollars and we get to know about the euro. Previously it was only American dollars. Only after the euro was introduced, they were telling about both these values. We don't get the values of the other countries. What is it equalization? What is this exchange? But do you think just because in the news they give you only American dollars and euro, those are the only currencies? No. For every country there is a currency, and for every currency we have a foreign exchange. We have a value that can be exchanged to. Okay. So governments have tried to gain confidence of potential users by announcing that the national currency will be freely convertible at a fixed price into another asset. So what happens when we have rupee? We have a fear that when we go to another country, how will we exchange it? It will not be of use. What is the use of it then? Then the government, they have make the people comfortable, saying that no, it is exchangeable. Even if you go to another country, you can give this money and you can get it exchanged at a particular rate, at a particular amount, okay, of transaction. You can exchange. That was promised by the government, okay. Also, the issuing authority will have no control over the value of that asset into which that currency can be converted. This other asset most often has been gold or other national currency. So how have we converted our rupee? We converted it into gold or other national currencies, okay. And there are two aspects of this commitment that has affected its credibility. So when this was into practice, we had two major aspects, okay, that affected its credibility. Credibility means what? The trustworthiness of it, okay. That is how well it could be trusted. If there is a table, I should have the credibility. I should have the trust that if I keep this much of weight, it can hold it. If I get on and stand on it, it will hold. But if there is a normal plastic chair, you cannot believe that an elephant can get on and stand on it. Right? So the credibility deals with the trustworthiness, the durability of something. Okay? So the ability to convert freely in unlimited amounts and the price at which this conversion takes place. So what are those two aspects that got affected was, okay, two aspects affecting the credibility of this system. Were what, children? One thing is that the ability to convert it in freely, okay? Convert freely in unlimited amounts. So when we had a policy of demonetization, when we had this economic reform being introduced, they said that at one day you can, exchange of about 50,000 or something. And what happened? There were people who got scared that to exchange lots of money because they had black money. That was the main motto for people who did not, the demonetization, because black money should come out, no corruption should be followed, all those things. So see, similarly, one question was how much easily can we convert, okay, this money, this our currency into another national currency, another financial asset, and to unlimited level. I have crores and crores of rupees and I have to convert. Does it allow me to do it? Was one question. Another one is the price at which this conversion takes place. Okay? Price of conversion. That is, for example, you have this exchange rate of 1 rupee into $5 we have. Okay? Example, I am saying just as an example. So 1 rupee is equal to $5 we say means if I have 200 rupees, I can convert it into what? $1,000. But will I get paid directly? You imagine you have the opposite sense. Okay, a foreigner coming to India, he has around $200. Okay, so we have $200. So how do you divide it? 5, right? Somewhere like this, if you divide 40 rupees. I got $200 and was converted into 40 rupees, and if there is any price for conversion of this is another question. So the value was not equally the same. Right? The value was not equally the same. If I have so much money in one currency, when it is converted into another currency, it did not give me that much of change. It did not give me the same value. The value got decreased. If it is increased, okay, fine, I'm happy. But if it got decreased, people were not happy. about it. Okay, so what were the two aspects that affected its credibility of this land? It's just that how freely can you convert it into unlimited amounts, and what is the price of conversion? How much has to be paid for these things? Okay, so such issues were there, and what was set up to handle this was there was a system called the International Monetary System. What is it? What was set up? International Monetary System was set up. For what? To handle these issues. Which issues? Like whether you are able to convert freely or what is the price of conversion. These issues had to be sorted out through what? The International Monetary System. And then with the increase in the volume of transactions, gold ceased to be the asset in which national currencies could be converted. So what happened after that? So the transactions were getting more and more because we had globalization through the new industrial policy 1991. We had globalization where imports and exports were made a lot easier. Compared to the earlier situation, we had a lot easier system. Okay, a lot easier system where we could discuss or we can have a lot of transactions. To be very simple, you can go for more transactions is what we got. So because of these transactions, there was a change that earlier it was told that the national currency can be converted into gold, okay, or some other national currencies. So now gold was eliminated from this process and they cannot continue going with gold. Why did we come out of it? Why did we have to leave that system? Why did gold cease to be an asset that could be converted into? Will be discussed in the next session. Okay, we're not going to discuss it now. We're just going to know what it is. Okay, and then what happened? They were able to be converted only into other national currencies. So some national currencies had international acceptability. What is important in transactions between two countries is the currency in which the trade occurs. So some currencies had international credibility and international acceptability. Not every currency, few currencies. So when there was a trade between two countries through the open economy, it is important that which money is used and on what basis, on which currency are we transacting. For example, when you are exporting, the value, is it given in rupees or is it given in dollars? That's it. That is what we are talking here. Okay. And it is not about the paper. It is not about the money itself. We are talking about the value of it. Right? Then, for instance, if an Indian wants to buy a good made in America, she will need dollars to complete the transaction. If the price of the good is $10, you need to know how much it will cost her. So, when we want to buy something in another country's currency, we need to know what is the exchange. Just now we did it. So, just like that, we need to know what the price of one currency in terms of another currency is known as the foreign exchange rate. So what is this? Foreign exchange rate. What is this foreign exchange rate, children? The price of one currency. Okay, Indian rupee is equal to American dollar. We are saying no. Just like that. The price of one currency in terms of another currency. In terms of another currency, okay, is what we are going to talk about through what? Foreign exchange rate or the exchange rate. So we will be discussing how this is determined in the next why gold was eliminated as an asset that could be exchanged for a currency. And second thing, we're going to talk about the balance of payments. Just like we had the revenue budget and the capital budget, here we're going to have two accounts for the current account and capital account. We're just going to discuss what are the various things, various components of current account and various components of capital account. That we'll be discussing in the next session. So I want you to find the foreign exchange rate for the currencies of various countries that I'm going to give you in the worksheet. Okay, as on one particular date, I want you to find it out. What is the exchange rate of rupee with some other countries' currencies, which I'm going to give you in the worksheet. So I want you to refer and write it. Okay, children. So we have discussed what is open economy, what is meant by the linkages, output market, financial markets and labor market. Then we spoke about foreign trade and how money being the common medium of transaction, how we discuss about the foreign trades, transactions, and how we exchange. We had a system called the the International Monetary System to solve issues like what? Conversion of the currencies freely and the price of conversion. To sort out these issues, we had this International Monetary System. And what else? What is meant by foreign exchange rate? The price of one currency in terms of another currency, because there was no international currency that could be accepted everywhere. Every country had one national currency and it has to be used to transact with another country, and do what? You need to convert it into that particular country's currency. So if you are going on a tour to Europe, you cannot take rupees there and you cannot spend. First place, you need to convert your rupee into euro and then you can use it for spending there. So when you come back to your home, so what do? You just convert, you have to exchange those euro, whatever you have, into rupees to be able to use it. Yes, you can bring the euro, how much ever you have you can bring, but still you cannot use them here for transactions. So only the national currencies are allowed to be transacted in the domestic economy, whereas in the international economy, that is in the open economy, you need to have an internationally accepted currency. Few currencies are accepted. So we transact in that particular accepted currencies, and if not, we need to go for what? Exchange. That is determined by what? The foreign exchange rate or the exchange rate. So we'll be discussing about the balance of payments in the next session, along with why gold ceased to be a mode for this conversion process will be discussed in the next session. I want you to go through about what are the various exchange rates that has happened, okay, on a particular day in some countries that I am going to mention to you in your worksheet. Okay, children, kindly read the text and try to understand it. Okay, thank you, and may all have a wonderful day today.